Hi guys, and welcome to another edition of the Kevin Moore Show. Now on today's show, I'm about to be joined by my guest, Alexis Brink. Now Alexis is one of the world's foremost authorities on the subject and the head of Jin Shin Institute in New York City. She shares the power of this holistic treatment with her new book, The Art of Jin Shin, the Japanese practice of healing with your fingertips. So Alexis Brink, welcome to the show.
I am so happy to be here, Kevin.
Thank you for coming on. Let's just go straight to the sell point in a sense. What is it that you do right now? What is it that you're passionate about? What's pushing you and what's your purpose in a sense?
The art of Jin Shin, it's a form of energy medicine, and it's similar to acupuncture, but instead of needles, we use our hands. So it's very accessible really to anybody because you can practice this on yourself, and that is what this book is about, called The Art of Jin Shin.
Okay, now you're based in New York, yes?
Yes, I'm based in New York, and I have an institute here as well where we train people and give sessions. It's like a wellness center, and we've created a path how to become a practitioner or team teacher as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, why Jin Shin? What is it about this practice that over, I'm guessing, a decade or more of practicing this have you been?
Yes, 3 decades.
3 decades. Okay, why 3 decades of pushing this, to doing the book, to getting the institute that you've got up and running? What is so special about this modality?
It is really my passion, and it's very complete. The technique is very fast, so in a way it's really a lifetime study, which is something that pulled me into it. It made me feel connected to something bigger than just myself, so that has to do with universal energy or consciousness. And then at the same time, it's as simple as holding a finger, which I would like to explore with you a little bit later, just harmonizing the emotions and helping the whole body. So it's from very simple to the study can be very complex as well, which is what I like. I really never had to look at anything else, at any other modalities.
What has it done to your life then?
For me, it has completely changed my life. First of all, I came to New York from Amsterdam to be a dancer, and I developed this knee injury, and I couldn't resolve it with acupuncture and chiropractic. So a friend of mine took me to watch a session. He had MS, and that's when I met my teacher, Philomena, and she did like little thing to my toes, my little toes, and she taught me some self-help, and I was able to go back to rehearsals the next day. So in that sense, it changed my life. And then when I took her workshop the following week, she told me to take it, and so I jumped in cold. I'd never even heard of energy movement or anything like it. It just really changed my life. Just being there and being with the energy and connecting to source energy, it just completely changed my life. And I knew that that's what I wanted to do the rest of my life.
Wow. Where is that push for that coming from, do you think? I mean, do you think that you had a past life doing this kind of stuff and you've just remembered it?
Well, that is probably true, because when I traveled to Japan, I felt very in tune there, and very I understand the culture naturally, but however, I think that when you connect to source energy and universal energy, it is a part of all of us. We are all born with this innate wisdom of being connected, and being in our lives, we forget to breathe, to get into the breath, which is so important. So this really brings us back to being connected to this universal source or energy or the creator, whatever you want to call it.
Well, what's it feel like when you're connecting to the universal energy, the source, whatever you want to call it, using this work? What's it feel like for you?
So can I turn it back and ask you, like, do you have some days where you just feel that everything just flows and everything goes smoothly and everything is easy and everything just falls into place? Do you ever feel that way?
I do have those days, but they're not all the time. Do you know what I mean? Yes.
Yeah, they're not all the time, but that is when we are in harmony. And so we have this individual body, but there's also, something more than that. And I think people are more comfortable with this concept today, because of yoga practices, and just people are more aware of it. And so what Jin Shin does is it brings us back into rhythm with universal energy. So, when you feel that everything falls into place, that means that you are connected and that you are a part of this bigger thing, and you're not, as the individual, just trying to go against it.
Okay, so no, absolutely. Okay, well, let's explain that. Let's go into that deeper then. So you're not just using it to heal; you're using it to get into the present moment with the universe, in a sense.
Yes, and that is where healing takes place. So when I give someone a session, it's not about what I'm doing, but in Jin Shin Jitsu, we call our hands the jumper cables. So when I apply them to the body, the energy starts to move, and I am just simply facilitating. So I'm not doing, or I'm not giving my energy, or I'm not giving the person's energy, but it's simply an art of harmonizing. And so what you feel, and also when you work on yourself, is you feel that your energy starts to change, and I'll explain later how we feel that. And you start to feel better, and your breathing starts to become deeper, and you start to change, and that's where healing takes place.
Well, what is that? Is that? I mean, okay, so someone, all right, so someone comes to you for an injury versus depression. What's the difference in the energy movement there then?
Well, the basic principle is that energy flows down the front and up the back. So there's always this cycle going on, and there is an interruption then of this cycle of energy flowing down the front and up the back. So when somebody has a depression, the energy is stuck in the head, and so you want to bring it down. So I will hold something below the waist to bring the energy down, and then that fullness or this depression or this stuck energy in the head will start to move and change, and it harmonizes, and then you feel different. And I've worked a lot with anxiety and depression, and it's very, very helpful.
Absolutely, absolutely it is. And when you talk about moving that energy, I mean, is it something that you can really describe what you're moving? I mean, is the energy causing blocks in the circulation? Is the energy causing, some other kind of blockages? I mean, what are we talking about? Soul energy or?
Yes. So the rest, when the energy moves, the physical body follows. So from skin surface to deep skin, to blood, to muscle, to skeleton, it all follows the energy. And let's say most people have heard of, in acupuncture, we talk about meridians, or acupressure meridians. So these pathways are very similar. So when somebody tells me, okay, I wake up every night at 3 a.m., that tells me something about the liver energy. So is there something wrong with your liver, the organ? No, not necessarily. But it is the energy pathway that denses down and becomes the liver. So you're working on a level of pure energy that denses down and becomes the organ and the body. And that's why it's so easy to change. Because in the art of Jin Shin, in Jin Shin Jitsu, we listen to the pulse in the wrist here to feel what's going on with the energy and what needs to be harmonized, whether it be the chest line, which relates to spirit, mind, the waistline, and body, the hip line. So it's always about harmonizing body, mind, and spirit. And the spirit, of course, is the direct connection to the heavens, and then the hip line is directly related to earth. And so all of them are important, all of them at the same time, the philosophy, the psychology, and the technique. And so it's all about being in harmony, all three of them.
So when someone comes to see you, then how long does that sort of energy, movement last for, until they could become blocked again? And what is causing the person to become blocked again if they do?
Yes, so it's partly lifestyle related. So people today they can be very stressed just from their living, their jobs, looking on their iPhones. Now I heard that people are developing this whole curve in the neck. So these things, and that actually manifests on the right side of the body. So when people have a lot of, I'm going to throw out a term now, we call them projects. And these are problems or symptoms that people come in with, and we turn them into projects because they're fun to work with. So daily lifestyle related projects manifest on the right side, and more genetic and older things manifest on the left side of the body. So we are balancing the right and the left side so that both of them move in harmony. And so when one side goes faster, that's when we get out of harmony. So it's all about finding balance and harmony. We're not fixing or curing. The body does that on its own.
Do you think the body's able to cure itself from many harmful issues that we may have to go to a doctor for? Do you think we need a doctor? Do you think this works in correlation with a doctor, what you're doing?
I think it works in correlation with doctors, because sometimes when somebody has a project that's already manifest in the body, let's say somebody has a tumor or a growth, right? It's already there and manifest, and sometimes it's better to remove it because it will take a lot of time and to energetically release it. Some people can, and for some people that's harder. So I am definitely for working together as a complementary way of healing yourself. Now, sometimes when I treat people, their medications need to be adjusted because their body starts to harmonize, and for example, they don't need as much medicine. Does that?
Absolutely. No, it does. That does make sense. Absolutely. And, I suppose this, everyone's different, and I suppose this works for some people and others it may not, but I think anything like this, if it's you've got to be willing to want to work with it when they come see you. You can't have too much. The more resistance they've got, and I'm sure you meet people with resistance when they come for help, the more it's going to take its time to work, basically.
Yes. So the thing is that the energy in the end, you cannot resist it. It's going to move anyway. So even if people, they are not believers, or, they feel that, is this going to work? By the time you give them an hour session, that's it. There's just no way it's not going to work. But most people who walk through the door here, they are ready also to learn about self-healing, and, they are ready.
Yeah, it's almost like they've been sent to you in a sense, that this is what their calling is, to come see you right now to get that healing, or at least to experience.
Yes, and often they've tried everything else. Often I see people as a last resort, and that's fine, because we in Jin Shin we go to the cause of the project. So they come in with a symptom, and then the practitioner will look into it and find out what is the cause. And with the help of the person, very often they are aware when they tune into the body. And so it's very clear where the cause is, because that's what we feel in the pulse.
Okay, so, yeah, but can you heal... Okay, say someone's got a sexual dysfunction, or it's a relationship issue they've got, or, it's more of that thing, or... they've had a breakup that's caused them, to be in a very dark place, whatever it may be, can you use it for that as well?
Yes, absolutely. And, it comes down to, are we working with the chest line, the waistline, and hip line? The chest line has to do with the mental, emotional, and the philosophy. So if somebody has a breakup in a relationship, they may be very emotional, and I will feel that here. So I will feel that in the pulse again, here on the chest line, and that harmonizes the emotional well-being. So sometimes when I give someone a session, tears come up because emotions are released. And so, yeah, so it's on all different levels at once. When you work with energy, body, mind, and spirit, the emotional, the mind, the body, they all
Yeah.
harmonize at the same time.
Well, what's it do for you as the person that's given the healing? So it's I'm guessing it's not just the client that's getting healing. You know, you're also getting something out of it as well because you're entering into that space as well.
Yes, that is absolutely true. In Jin Shin Jitsu, we call that the seventh depth. We're working with cycles of energy, and they're called a depth. And so the seventh depth is the energy of the light. And so I, as a practitioner, connect to that. And all I have to do for me, it's I get into the breath, and that's it. I place my hands, and I get out of the way. So I don't give my energy, and I don't take on energy, and I'm simply harmonizing. And that's this jumper cable energy.
Well, let's go. I mean, I've got loads of other questions, but let's go into how it works. So if a client's coming to see you, what will they, or actually, right, not only is it what happens when a client comes to see you, can people actually do this remotely? Is that what the book's about, in a sense? Because I read the book briefly.
So the book, The Art of Jin Shin, it's a self-help book. It's completely for self-help. So any person that comes to me, I also teach them a self-help routine. So I'll teach them some what we call quickies. And those are simple one-step holds to help relieve their symptom. And even if you work on a symptom, it harmonizes on a deeper level, of course. And then also people create their own daily routines. And most of my clients, they do a lot of self-help. Most of them work on themselves for an hour or a minimum of 20 minutes each day. And they really get into it. And it really becomes a big part of their lives. And, as my teacher says, don't leave home without it. We do this main flow in the morning before we get out of bed.
Who is your teacher?
My teacher is Philomena Dooley, is her name. And I studied a lot with her. The book is dedicated to her. She's been very important to me. She now retired, but I speak with her all the time. And both we are still studying because, it's an art. Jin Shin is an art, and so it's always evolving.
Of course. Well, have you noticed as well? Sorry to butt in. Have you noticed that some people now don't want the labels? They don't want to say, whatever it is that may be labeled as a bit woo-woo. They want something more practical, but yet it is spiritual and woo-woo, but it's without the labels. Have you noticed that?
Yes, it is. I think a lot of people are because they're starting to understand that a label is a word for a symptom, really. And when we start to harmonize the energy, that you can change it so quickly. And so also once you have a label and you see something in an X-ray, it can be very powerful. So, I like to get away from labels as well. And we just find the cause. It's interesting because when two people come in with the same project, let's say two people come in with migraines, the cause may be different for different people. And so it works for the individual, very specifically for the individual. It's not general treatment for everybody. It's very tailored for the individual.
Right. Well, we're going to get into how it works as well, just the procedure. But I just want to ask you as well, I mean, does this work? Does this type of treatment, does it help you to get in contact with your intuition? Because, that's part of the issue, isn't it, with some people's issues, is that they're not listening to what is going on in their life, and they're not listening to how they feel about the situation. So the body creates an issue that they have to be forced into asking, why is that issue happening? Mm-hmm. But they never listen to their intuition in the first place, kind of thing.
That's very true. And like I said, we are all born with this innate wisdom. If you think about a baby sucking their thumb, they're actually helping their stomach and spleen energy, and they're helping digestion. And as parents, what do? We take out the thumb and we put in a pacifier, and so we stop this natural process. And you see people holding certain things all the time, or holding their upper arms. So here you're helping with stress. Here you're helping the chest line, the lungs, and the heart. So we are practicing really, in fact, Jin Shin on ourselves all the time, even if we're not aware. So this just brings an awareness to what exactly we need, the Jin Shin. It teaches you, and it's really a self-study. Like, for example, there is a point here, which we call SEL3, which is related to the immune system. And before I feel a cold coming on, I feel that this safety energy location closes and it becomes tight and it starts to hurt. So just by holding it, I open it up, and then I probably won't get a cold. So you can also, it works preventatively very well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And did you, obviously, when you got into this work, did you look into other healing techniques that were away from this type of stuff? And did you fight with, is this the right path for me? Is this? I know this healing works, but there's so many other healings. Am I going to go and explore some of them? Did you explore them? Did it take you back to what you're doing now?
Well, that's a very good question. For me, the Jin Shin Jitsu is so complete that I never had to look at any other modalities. The technique, like I say, it's so vast, and so you can continue to study this forever. And then it's as easy as placing your hands and starting the energy to move. So for me, acupuncture was not as effective for my knee. So that was my own experience. And then I know somewhere it's similar to Reiki also, because you get energy to move. But with Reiki, it's not as individualized. So we really do create a very specific treatment plan for people when they come in with their projects. And so the self-help also, there's a lot of material and a lot of choices and flows you can move.
So previously, we just discussed in there that, obviously you've looked into others. It's always taking you back to Jin Chen, right? So have you, obviously, every session for a client is different. But have you gone to a place sometimes with a client where they've started to leave their body in a sense, and they're talking about some other worldly place they're in, like they've gone to the afterlife or the life between life place? Have they ever gone to a place that's, so deep that when you've taken them into a session?
That's an interesting question. So Jin Shin does bring everything to the surface. And so emotions can come up. And I can give you one interesting example, is that for one lady that I was working with, she had polio as a child and she had never experienced it. And during the session, she felt these movements in her body. And it was actually some of those experiences coming up to the surface. And she's a dance choreographer, and she realized that a lot of her movements that she creates are related to those polio movements. And so, things come to the surface, and Jin Shin Jitsu cannot harm you. So things come to the surface and move out. So it's important, because otherwise it stays in the system. And so it's important it comes to the surface and harmonizes and moves out. Or sometimes people start to detox. We can give 10 sessions consecutively, and people start to detox, and it is toxins coming out. And so I would say, yes, things come up. As far as past lives, I haven't personally experienced it, but people have different experiences with it.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Thank you. And has there ever been a part in your career, or on your path, where you've used it because you're in, because it's just the last kind of resource, because it works for you, but you're in a dark place, for example, whatever you've been through in your life where it's been difficult. I'm guessing you've applied this technique as well.
For me, it's a big part of my life. For me, it turned around my life when I had my knee injury and I had to stop dancing as a dancer for 6 weeks at a time. And with the Jin Shin, I never had to stop again. So from then on, I really did make it a part of my life. So if I have an injury, if I'm sick, if I don't feel, which is hardly ever, knock on wood, I use it all the time. It is a part of my life. I practice it every day on myself, and I get a session once a week myself. So, you know, when I work with my practitioner, we always say, how do people do it without? It makes you so good. It makes you, and the treatment is so nice. So, you know, sometimes I teach a workshop, and I see people a couple of years later, and they say, oh, you know, I've been holding my fingers every day and doing my main center source every day. So people really do make it a part of their lives.
Absolutely. You know, I think if I was doing that for that long, would there be a part in my life where I'd fallen out with the work, where I was like, you know what, this is just not for me anymore, or you know, screw it, it's not helping me in this moment. But from what you're saying, it's always been there, because you're tapping back into source, and if you're tapping back into source or the universal energy, whatever you want to call it, all answers lie there, don't they?
Yes, it's true, and you can use it as an emergency as well. And actually, there's little stories in my book. But my son called me from college, and he's like, "Mom, this kid collapsed. What do I do?" And I told him what to do. I said, "You hold the back of his head, just sit with him." And he said, "Oh, never mind, the EMS is coming." And I said, "Oops." And I said, just stay with it till." Just stay with it. And a few minutes later, I got a text message, and he said, it worked. So, you know, my kids text me all the time. What do you do for a headache or stomach ache? And they tell their friends, and I just give them one simple hold to do. So this generation has a lot of anxiety in their life. And so for anxiety, for example, you can just hold the index finger and get to the breath. And that will harmonize anxiety. So you can do it very simply as well, which with today's lifestyle, people need simple.
Well, let's go over that then. I think that's an important part. Let's go over just some simple techniques we can do.
Okay, great. So, so these are actually, you saw the book, right? Yeah, good. Okay, so the simplest things is to harmonize the energy through holding the fingers. And Mary Burmeister, who brought Jin Shin Jitsu to the United States from Japan, she says that all dis-ease or disharmony begins with an emotional attitude. So when we worry a lot, you can hold your thumb, and that helps to harmonize worry. It helps digestion, and it helps the stomach and spleen energy. So what you do is you can hold it for a few minutes and breathe. And you can wait to see when you feel a pulsation. And when you feel the pulsation, that's the energy moving. So that's why we hold it gently, just like that. And then the index finger helps to harmonize fear. And it helps the kidney and bladder energy. And it helps back pain. So I think today, in today's society, there's a lot of anxiety. So this is a finger that's very, very powerful to hold. And even if you go to the dentist and you're scared, you can hold this finger to just harmonize it. I do that myself. Even when I go for a cleaning, I'll just hold this finger naturally. And then the middle finger has to do with anger. And it helps to harmonize the liver and gallbladder energy. And so it helps the eyes. And so maybe good for you as well. And it also helps deep fatigue in the body. So you just hold it like this and breathe. And then the ring finger helps sadness and grief, and it helps to harmonize the lung and large intestine energy. And it's interesting that we wear wedding rings there, right? On the finger. But so, for example, I have something to add to that. Okay. So anyway, sometimes this also helps the lungs. So you can sit like this, and this is a little mudra, and helping the breathing. And then the little finger helps to harmonize the heart and small intestine energy. And you can use this in an emergency as well. If somebody has a heart project, boom, you go into it really strongly, and you get that heart energy to move. And that helps the trying to's of life. When you try too much, efforting too much, or pretense. And then the palm of the hands helps everything. All the energies come together here, and that just helps. It helps also when you're very tired and deeply depleted, the palm of the hand helps. So it's interesting that in Japan, they hold the palms a lot and they bow, observing the whole body. And here in the West, we shake hands and we touch the palms like that. And it's our prayer position as well. So we have the whole world in our hands.
So when you're doing that as well, are you envisaging sort of, an energy movement throughout the body? When you're touching the fingers and you're doing whatever it is that you're trying to do for the client, are you envisaging seeing the energy start to move?
Yes. Again, the energy flows down the front of the body to the toes and up the back. And that's why it's so important to use this with the breath together. Because if you're not breathing, then the energy will not move. And sometimes I experience that with new clients. I place my hands and the energy is just not moving. It's taking too much time for it to start to move. So I ask people to breathe, and then immediately it starts to move. So breathing is really the most important and easiest way to access healing in the body. And then the second one is holding the fingers.
Right, absolutely. And is there any other stuff that you might like to share with us as well? Any other techniques?
Yes, well, there is a lot, and so I recommend that you get the book. Of course, everything is in there. But let me just think of another. Do you have any questions like what you have, and then I'll give you a little.
What do I suffer from sometimes? Well, I guess I don't actually have a daily practice. Most people are going to kill me for saying that. And I should do, right? Because I know it would make a big difference in my life. But I'm just trying to think of something that would help the audience as well as myself. I think the hardest thing is just being in present moment. What technique would you do to get into present moment?
Okay. So I'm going to then teach you the main center source, all right? So you already have all the fingers in the palm, and the main center source is really the flow that all of us do every day. So the right hand goes on top of the head, like here, and the left hand goes between the eyebrows. And you hold that for a few minutes. And breathe, and you wait for this pulsation to come up. And this flow helps the whole endocrine system, so it's very, very powerful. And then the left hand moves here under the nose. And that helps the generation of the body, builds new cells, and helps the body to generate. And then here, down the V of the neck, and that helps the thyroid, and it helps breathing. And you hold that for a few minutes, again, till you feel that pulsation come on. And then here, this helps the thymus gland. It's right here on the middle of the chest bone. And it helps to harmonize the emotions as well. And all the organs that live here. And then you move your hand here to the base of the sternum. And that helps the adrenals and all the organs here. And it helps to calm the mind and anxiety. And then the left hand moves to the pubic bone. That helps all the energy to move down. And then the right hand goes to the tailbone. And that helps total body circulation. So this is a big part of our practice, this main center source. And this flow connects us to source energy. And so this one this is when my teacher said, don't leave home without it. This is the one we do every morning before we get out of bed. This is the one I teach to all my clients. And also for people who have hormonal imbalance and wake up in the middle of the night, then this flow will put you back to sleep. And people report when they do it, they don't even finish it because they're asleep already by the time they, in the middle of it. So.
Well, let me ask you something I maybe should have asked you at the beginning. Just how old is this practice?
Well, Jun Marai, he was born he was from 1912, and in the 20s he became very ill himself, and so he went up to the mountain cabins when his family came from a line of doctors, and they couldn't help him. So he had read about these people in the past who did fasting, meditation, and holding different mudras. And so he went into the mountain cabin for a week where he meditated, fasted, and holding these mudras, and he healed himself. And so he decided to devote the rest of his life to the research and practice of what he called Jin Shin Jitsu. And so he formed this. And what was, I forgot your question.
Oh, just how old the practice is in general, back from Japan.
Right. So in the 20s, he really developed the 20s and 30s and 40s. And then Mary Burmeister came along, and she was a student. She's half American and half Japanese, and she was an English teacher, and she brought the practice back to the United States and developed it because he created all the flow patterns and all the locations on the body. So they are a given for us. We don't change those. But she really brought in the philosophy, because in the East, in Japan, it's really a cultural thing. The people are brought up with the philosophy of body, mind, and spirit. They are brought up with the concept of that there is a universal or ancestral energy, that it's not just only the physical body that we see here. So even if they don't really practice it like that, and they don't really give it a lot of attention, it is a part of their being. So when Mary Burmeister brought it to the West, she put a lot of emphasis on the philosophy. And for me, that is the part that really pulled me into it.
Okay, so you teach that as well. Do you actually teach people how to? Obviously, you're training other practitioners.
I train other practitioners, and I have an institute that was started by Pamela Markarian Smith, who was a student of Mary Burmeister's and then formed Jin Shin Institute. And she passed away, and she handed down this institute to me. And it's the mission of the institute is to open up the art to the world, because it's very little known. Everybody knows acupuncture and Reiki and yoga, but nobody has heard of Jin Shin Jitsu or the art of Jin Shin. So one of the things is that Jin Shin Jitsu the name is so hard to remember. So I call it the art of Jin Shin, and Jitsu actually means art. So the art of Jin Shin is just easier for people to remember.
And what's been the uptake, would you say, in America and of Europe of this work as well?
It's very, very popular. There are about 30,000 students in the world and spreading. Really, everybody that comes in touch with it, they just love it so much that I think most people stay with it, even if they get a couple of sessions. Once somebody receives a session, or once you start to move the energy, the body will not go back to where it was. So there's always a change made,
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, to be able to go to that place, that connection with source as well, if that's your way of getting there, that's a beautiful thing as well. Can people have sessions over Skype, or has it got to be in person?
I do some Skype session. It's becoming very popular in India as well. So there's a lot of students there. And I do Skype sessions with people and teach them the self-help. But the thing is that this book, I really made it for people so that they can, everything is in there. The whole self-help system is in there. Plus I explain how to do it and how it works and what is energy and all of it. So it's very self-explanatory and accessible.
Yeah. And your website is?
It's jinshininstitute.com, JINSHIN institute.com. And I just wanted to, if you don't mind, explain a little more about the name. And Jin means person, and it's the compassionate person. And Shin means creator. And then Jitsu is art. So the art of Jin Shin means it's really the art of the creative energy or consciousness delivered through the compassionate person. And compassionate person, we all have this, and we all are capable of tuning into this energy from the seventh depth. And again, anybody can do this and tap into it.
How does it help to motivate people? Does it help to sort of, give them self-motivation as well when they start the practice?
Yes, absolutely. Well, first of all, for motivation, you can just simply hold the inside of your knees, because the inside of the knees is the prime mover, and it makes you move. It makes you move forward in life. So whether you need digestion of thoughts or food, you can hold the inside of your knees, which is safety energy location number 1. Or if you need motivation, it makes you move forward in life. And sometimes when people talk to me, because people tell you that they're stuck in their lives, right? They'll go to safety energy location number 1, and you get the energy to move, and then they are able to move forward in life as well. So they all these safety energy locations, and they're 26 on the right side and 26 on the left side of the body. They have a spiritual meaning and a practical meaning. And so when you understand the meaning of these locations, it tells you everything about yourself, where you are and what's going on. And that's why it's so interesting. It's really an art about getting to know and help yourself.
Absolutely, it is. And what would you say is the most important message of your work?
I think it's really to have fun, and also to start using the practice, because it really works. It really works. And sometimes people come to me, they are new to it, and they say, it really doesn't work. And I say, well, have you been practicing? And they say, no. And that's the only time that it will not work. It will always work. And so the more you learn about it, the more effective you can be, and the more directly you can go to what needs to be harmonized.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, all the links for the book and the website are in the description of the video below. And I just want to say, Alexis Brink, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for having me here. It was really fun.